Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 501 of the True Crime All the Time podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, we did it. We went over 500 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We turned the page to 501.
Like the jeans you wear, the 501s.
Button fly. I never understood button fly.
They were not a big hit. I
think they were. I think a lot of people
Really?
wear them, maybe still do. A zipper just seems so much faster.
It is. It's a lot of work when you got to get your jeans off to have to undo those 5 buttons.
Except for, that guy in Something About Mary.
Well,
See,
that's true.
people that are afraid of that might
Yeah.
go with the button fly.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
All right, man, we're diving right in.
Okay.
So last episode, we started our series on the Long Island serial killer. We started off talking about how the investigation began, the discovery of the bodies on Gilgo Beach, the lives of the Gilgo Four, and the early suspect profile, which, let's face it, wasn't a whole lot.
No.
Ogre in his late 20s to late 30s. Basically is what we got. Now, I did want to spend just a second here, though, talking about the commonalities or the similarities of the victims. We touched on it in episode 1, but it's hard not to believe, right? When you kind of step away and you look at it, that someone is targeting a very specific type of woman.
Right.
I mean, number one, they're all escorts, so they have that in common.
They do.
And as we heard, I think one of the investigators say, it seems as though this person is going online and essentially searching for the type of victim that they're looking for.
Yeah. Petite, hazel eyes, 100 pounds or less?
Yeah.
For the majority of them?
5 foot or less.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very specific victim type. And I just got to thinking about it, between the first episode and the second, how easy that would have been for the killer.
Fairly easy.
It's like, and I don't want to trivialize it, but it's like shopping on Amazon.
Basically, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying, right? He went to the market, selected the criteria, and then said, here you go. Now,
we did spend a little bit of time talking about sex work. Again, very dangerous job, always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
You think about an escort maybe being safer than someone standing on a street corner who's getting into the car with a stranger who is then going to drive away to wherever they want.
Yeah.
But then is it? Because now we're talking about someone who's advertising their services online where someone can carefully select the type of victim that they're looking for.
And this killer's doing a good job, and I hate even saying that, but he's doing a job where he can get them to drop their defense, right? He's telling them, hey, leave this stuff behind. Don't bring your purse. Don't bring this. And that's kind of like the safety net, right? I mean, you just...
Phone.
Yeah.
Maybe a purse with a pepper spray or something that a woman would normally carry as some form of protection. Maybe that's part of that. But I was really thinking about that. And again, we always hate it when we have to give, I don't want to use the word props, but when you have to give credit or anything like that to a killer. But I think you have to talk about how they go about doing what they do.
Right.
It's important.
Sure it is.
To the story. It's also important to learning what to look for in certain situations. But as we move on to part 2, we'll cover the discovery of additional bodies in the Gilgo Beach area, more links, right? Or all the links among the victims, and follow the investigation through 2022. On March 29th, 2011, police found partial skeletal remains several miles east of where the Gilgo Four were found. And we said it, right? In episode 1, the remains of these 4 women, the Gilgo Four, were found very close together.
They were.
I mean, there was no doubt to me that this was a killer's dumping ground. That's how close they were. This wasn't scattered. I mean, this was a place that someone went to specifically. They went back to specifically because they must have thought, this was a great place the first time. It's going to serve me well in the future.
I mean, clearly they were comfortable in that area.
I think that's a good word to use. These remains were identified as 20-year-old Jessica Taylor, who went missing in 2003. Only Jessica's skull and hands were found on the beach. However, other parts of her remains had already been found. Back on July 26, 2003, a dog walker in Manorville, eastern Long Island, found a nude and dismembered torso on top of a pile of scrap wood at the end of a paved access road off Halsey Manor Road. The head and arms below the elbows had been removed, and a tattoo was mutilated to hinder identification. So, we're talking about, number one, a sick individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I think we're also talking about a person who is at least putting some thought into what they're doing. I mean, they're trying to get away with what they're doing. So obviously there are some steps that they're going to take, right, to hinder the police from identifying who this person is.
I mean, I think they're not only doing that, but I feel like maybe they might be getting an enjoyment out of this as well.
You could be right. It could be a twofold kind of thing. I'm messing the words up, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, if you're removing the head and hands, that's that goes a long way towards identifying someone. And then take it a step further, and then you're trying to mutilate a tattoo, which might help. Probably would help the police identify the person. The remains were identified as Jessica later that year. Jessica was last seen working around the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan. Authorities believe she was killed sometime between July 21st and July 26th. Jessica's mother reported her missing when she didn't show up for a planned get-together in Poughkeepsie. So, I mean, the one thing that jumps out at me is these discoveries were made 8 years apart.
Yeah.
And, we talk all the time about, whether it's a hunter or somebody out hiking or something like that, stumbling upon either a dead body or the remains of a body, skeletal remains. I think that would be shocking. But then there's another part of it that I can't help but think about, and that's that how many people's remains are just out in some remote area yet to be found.
Scary.
That's a scary thought.
I think there's a lot.
I think so too. And I don't like it.
I don't either.
It's not going to help me plan hiking trips. I don't do a lot of hiking anyway.
Sorry.
But no, I mean,
I'm not worried about you going hiking.
No, there's no danger of me planning any, but it's not going to strengthen that
Exactly.
or make that any more likely.
Yeah.
On April 4th, 2011, 3 more sets of remains were found along Ocean Parkway at Gilgo Beach. The first victim was identified as Jane Doe number 6. Authorities found her head, right foot, and hands on the beach. She was found a 1.5 miles east of Jessica Taylor and a little over 2 miles east of the Gilgo Ford. This woman's remains were found years earlier in Manorville, Long Island, in November 2000. Again, this was the same area where Jessica Taylor's partial remains were found in 2003.
I mean, are you asking yourself, if you live there, what the hell's going on?
I think that's one of the things you're asking.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, nobody would have known it in the beginning, but it's also fascinating when you look back on it that, okay, he dumped certain parts or some parts of the body in one location, multiple people, and then he dumped parts of multiple people in a second location. So again, those locations must have been ones that he was familiar with, comfortable with. My other thought is we're talking about a person who is more than okay, apparently, with dismembering bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, I can't imagine ever killing someone. It's not something I want to think about. I don't think of myself as ever doing that. And I think it would be really hard to dismember a body.
To go to that next level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I guess if you're a stone cold killer, that probably doesn't faze you at all. I think for most of us, it's a bridge too far.
I think you have to have there's a certain type of personality that can do that.
Mm-hmm. You mean like a sociopath, a psychopath, or, you know, that kind of personality?
Yes.
The victim's torso was wrapped in garbage bags and dumped in the woods near the intersection of Halsey Manor Road and Mill Road. The remains of an unidentified female toddler were located in the same area of Gilgo Beach as Jane Doe number 6. The remains of an unidentified male were found closer to the remains of the Gilgo Ford. Investigators described the victim as between 17 and 23 years old, Asian, and death occurred 5 to 10 years earlier.
I mean, so we're kind of getting away from the MO, right?
Well, yeah, obviously we're male now.
Yeah.
And we have a toddler.
Yeah.
So that doesn't fit at all with the MO that we've been talking about, which is sex workers, presumably, gone through online. They all fit a very similar specific type.
So for authorities, they have to figure out, are these related? Are they tied together? Or is this just some random bodies we're uncovering?
But again, it goes back to your question is what the hell is going on?
That's what I would be asking myself if I lived there.
If you're a beach goer, if you live in the area, I think these are all questions you got to ask. Now, this is not all coming out at the same time, though,
no.
Right? We're talking about different years and things like that. So we know it all now.
Yeah, yeah.
But people didn't know it all in 2000 or 2003. It would come out in drips and drabs. And so maybe it didn't hit the same way.
Probably not, but
to
still,
people.
I just think, as you picked up the paper and you're like, didn't this happen last year? Did this happen 2 years ago?
Well, at a certain point, obviously they were able to lay it all out.
Yeah.
And when you see it all like that, it's very disconcerting, to say the least.
For sure.
The greatest distance between victims was 1.43 miles, and the shortest distance was just 0.4 of a mile.
Yeah.
On April 11, 2011, 2 more sets of remains were found off Ocean Parkway in Nassau County, 7 miles west of Gilgo Beach. The first set of dismembered remains were found in the brush at Jones Beach State Park. They belonged to an unidentified woman. This was another instance where the woman's partial remains were first discovered in a different location years earlier.
So drop a little bit over here, drop a little bit over here, and hope that they can't figure it out.
Yeah. On June 28th, 1997, the dismembered torso of an African-American woman was found at Hempstead Lake State Park in Lakeview, New York. The torso was found in a plastic container dumped next to a road along the west side of the lake. The victim had a tattoo below her left breast of a peach with a bite out of it and 2 drips falling from the core. Because of this, investigators called the Jane Doe Peaches.
Okay.
The case was featured on America's Most Wanted, and her tattoo was published in a tattoo magazine, leading a Connecticut tattoo artist to come forward with the tip. He recalled that Peaches was visiting from Long Island with her aunt and cousin and said she was having boyfriend trouble.
I mean, it was worth putting it into that magazine.
Yeah. Well, you and I talk about it all the time, though, right? If you could, back in the day, get a case on America's Most Wanted,
Yeah.
that was a big freaking deal.
I mean, you got in front of a lot of people.
There was a lot of eyeballs. A lot of people watched that show. Now, the tattoo thing, it's a great piece of evidence, or
Yeah.
it's a great identifier, but you got to somehow get it in front of the person that would know maybe who did that tattoo, or the person who did that tattoo. Really smart of them to think about putting it in a tattoo magazine.
And I think they got lucky with that. I mean, it could have been a hit or miss, but in this case, they had a good hit.
But what was the downside? Right? No downside if it doesn't work.
No.
So why not take the chance? I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. In 2015, investigators determined Peaches was the mother of the female toddler, known as Baby Doe, found on the beach on April 4th. They were found 6 miles apart. And that's heartbreaking, right? I mean, we're talking about the deaths of a lot of women here, and it's sad. It really is. But it hits different when you're talking about a toddler. There's just no way around it. Peach's skull and some of her limbs have still not been found, which meant investigators could not put together a composite sketch. They believed Peaches was between 20 and 30 years old. In addition to her distinctive tattoo, she had a scar indicating she had a C-section. The extremities of Peaches that were found on Jones Beach had 2 gold bracelets. Her daughter, Baby Doe, was wrapped in a blanket with a 16-inch gold chain and 2 gold hoop earrings.
Okay.
A skull and teeth were found at Tobay Beach and listed as Jane Doe number 7. The remains were confirmed to belong to an unidentified victim whose severed legs were found in a garbage bag on Fire Island on April 20th, 1996. So, I mean, let's just stop for a minute. I mean, we are talking about a trail of carnage here.
We really are.
Now, you know, we're talking about it with the 2020 knowledge, right, of knowing everything that happened. I still think, you know, early on when these things were being discovered, I'm sure it probably didn't hit the same way. It's different in its totality, but I mean, once you know everything,
Mm-hmm.
that some parts were found over here, some were here, 2 different dumping grounds. I mean, it becomes just so scary.
Yeah, it really does.
And you get the full scope of, I mean, if this is one person, we got a real predator here. And if it's not one person, then what do we make out of it? You got multiple people running around dumping bodies in the same parts. Hard not to believe it's one person,
But you could. It could be multiple.
and that would potentially even be scarier, I guess. So by May of 2011, a total of 10 sets of remains had been found on Gilgo Beach. Investigators weren't sure whether or not the same killer was responsible for all the murders. So I just got done saying, right, that at a certain point, kind of the totality is going to set in. I think by May 2011, if it's being reported that 10 sets of remains had been found, I mean, if you're a resident, if you're making travel plans, it's not going to be to Gilgo Beach. I can tell you that much.
Absolutely not, man. You're going to stay away from there.
On May 9th, 2011, the police speculated that 2 of the murderers appeared to be related. The partial remains of Jane Doe number 6 had previously been found in a heavily wooded area of Manorville on November 19th, 2000. She was found in the same section where Jessica Taylor's torso was recovered. The manner of disposal of Jane Doe number 6 was said to have been distinctly dissimilar to the Gilgo 4, but similar to that of Jessica Taylor.
Okay.
So I don't know what you make of that, other than maybe questioning whether this is the same person, or if it was one person who murdered and disposed of the Gilgo 4, but then you have a second person come in and just happen to murder and dispose of the remains of his victims in a similar place. Mm-hmm. Either way, I'm scared to death, man.
Yeah. So this is just a bizarre scenario.
It is. It is. And imagine, you live pretty close to there and you picking up the morning paper, and this is probably headline news and you're reading it for weeks on end. It's terrifying stuff.
I mean, what if you took a jog down that way earlier that day?
Wouldn't be. Oh, you mean before you knew?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay, yeah, because the jogs are going to stop.
I would hope so.
I mean, I wouldn't be jogging anyway.
Well,
jogging is about as likely as hiking.
Yeah.
Or actually less likely probably for me. But yeah, I think if you're an avid jogger and that was your route, you're either buying a treadmill to stay indoors or you're picking a different route.
Yeah.
One or the other. I can't imagine that anybody is reading that type of news and saying, yeah, I'll go back there on the next jog. That's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
In early December 2011, investigators found Shannon Gilbert's belongings, including her purse, shoes, and cell phone. They were found in marshland near Oak Beach, Long Island. And, this is so fascinating, right? Because we started episode 1.
We did.
Talking about Shannon Gilbert. That's who they were searching for.
Yeah.
When they happened to, find the remains of these women, and then they were finding more and more remains, but they weren't finding Shannon Gilbert. But the remains of Shannon were finally found on December 13th, 2011, a quarter mile from where her belongings were found. But interestingly, authorities didn't suspect foul play. Because why?
Maybe
she wasn't dismembered?
Yeah. And how the accounts from that night went.
Yeah, that could be. But Shannon's family had a private autopsy done. Their pathologist thought the findings were consistent with homicide. But the SCPD and the FBI behavioral unit believe Shannon's death was an accidental drowning.
But still, you have to think about, one, it's how the whole case started. But then for her to be found with her belongings here, her remains here, yeah, if it's not related, she's still mixed in with that stuff. And it's just like another layer of bizarreness. That's a way to say that.
It is. And I get it. It's maybe a different situation. It's not similar enough, right, to lump in. In January 2012, James Burke took over as chief of the Suffolk County Police, forcing former chief of detectives Dominic Verone into retirement. Chief Burke reduced manpower and cut out outside agencies involved in the Gilgo Beach investigation. The case remained unsolved, but the Long Island serial killer remained a topic in the headlines. And how could it not, Gibbs?
Sure.
I mean, this is big time stuff. You've got, 10 different women, at least, or 10 different victims, remain scattered in multiple locations. I mean, we're talking about a very vicious serial killer.
And you just can't let that sit there. You have to talk about it. You need to make sure that authorities are doing everything they can to figure out what the heck's going on. But is it a priority for them if majority of the victims are sex workers?
Well, it does kind of, to me, then bring up the question. You're reducing manpower and you're cutting out outside agencies who could provide a lot of help. Why are you doing that? Is there no pressure? Is it because of their profession? Many of them, I don't know. Yeah. But it seems like a weird thing because this has to be very out there in the headlines, but yet you're reducing the amount of people working on it.
I mean, it seems like something you'd want to make sure we're still continuing with a full court press on.
Well, and it would seem like something that the public would be demanding.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not because of the profession of most of these victims. I don't know. Yeah. On December 10th, 2015, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Tim Sini announced that the FBI had joined the investigation one day after former Chief James Burke was indicted for civil rights violations and conspiracy. So, I don't know everything about it, but, obviously the minute this guy's gone, they bring the FBI back in. And that seems logical to me. It seems strange to me that they would even cut anybody out who's trying to help.
But are they bringing them back in, for the unsolved murders, or is it a combination of that and the fact that this former chief, is in trouble over civil rights violations?
I don't know. Now, the New York Post reported that Burke refused to keep the FBI informed of the investigation into the Gilgo Beach murders. This is because he was on the FBI's radar for the 2012 assault of a man named Christopher Loeb. Christopher Loeb was arrested in Smithtown, New York, for probation violations. During the arrest and search of his home, officers found stolen merchandise from over a dozen vehicles, including Burke's vehicle. His gun belt, magazines of ammunition, cigars, humidor, and a canvas bag were stolen. It was reported that Loeb also stole sex toys and pornography from Burke.
You stole from my vehicle. You stole my stuff, but you also stole my sex toys. So that's probably, an embarrassment thing that Burke didn't like to have out there.
Well, I mean, this is the chief of police. First of all, okay, maybe you can't help it that your police vehicle got stolen, right? That's maybe outside of your control. But let's talk about why you have sex toys and pornography in there. That's going to be a question that's going to come up.
It is.
Hey, what you do on your own time, as I always say, is your own business. But, okay, you might be transporting it maybe to get it home. But, when you get home, maybe you take that stuff out of your work vehicle and put it in the bedroom where you think it belongs.
But as well as I know, once that gets out there, and you're working day in and day out with your fellow officers, they are not going to let that slide.
Well, he's the chief of police, so they work for him, but they're still not going to let it slide.
No, there are going to be some things jokes said, things
now, maybe
happened.
because he's the boss, they don't say them directly to him, but everybody's going to be talking behind his back. I can guarantee you that. You just think about losing your gun belt, ammunition, things like that. Burke was allowed to enter and get his bag and other items during the search. He drove to the Suffolk County Police 4th Precinct in Smithtown, where Loeb was being interrogated. He entered the room and punched and kicked Loeb in the head and body while he was chained and handcuffed. Burke and others pressured the detectives who witnessed the assault to conceal it. And this is why people have big time problems with police.
Sure, yeah.
You have bad apples like this guy making the rest of police officers look bad.
I mean, look, I get it. You have the right to be pissed that this guy took your stuff.
Yeah.
And he probably, like I said, embarrassed you. But you don't have the right to go in there and beat him.
No, and who would know better than the chief of police?
He let his emotions get in the way.
He did. So Burke was arrested on December 9th, 2015. He resigned from his position in October. On February 26, 2016, Burke pleaded guilty to a civil rights violation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. For almost 3 years, he and other Suffolk County law enforcement took actions to obstruct a federal civil rights investigation into the assault. So, I mean, not only did he assault this man in 2012, then he spent like 3 years trying to cover it up and get other people to not say anything about it. On November 2nd, 2016, Burke was sentenced to 46 months and 3 years of supervised release. Several years later, on August 22nd, 2023, James Burke was arrested at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park in Farmingville after exposing himself to an undercover ranger and saying he was interested in oral sex. He tried to leverage his status as a former law enforcement official to get out of the charge. He was charged with offering a sex act, public lewdness, indecent exposure, and criminal solicitation.
I mean, what's going on here?
What?
He's over at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park, a very serious place, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey.
Doesn't seem like a hookup place, but maybe it is. I don't know where this place is.
He's like, hey, buddy, look, I don't have nothing on. Why don't you come over here and, anyway.
I think he was wearing the brown trench coat.
Yeah, it doesn't go the way he thinks it should go. And then he's like, hey, yeah, I made a bad choice here, but don't arrest me because I'm one of you, man. I'm an officer. I used to be. Just, I won't do it again. Let me go.
But here's the thing, right? He was severely disgraced officer.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's leveraging that in the first place, but it's not going to work, right? Now I'm starting to wonder what type of sex toys and pornography were stolen from his car.
Yeah.
And maybe they were a little bit more salacious, I guess is the word I would use.
Probably.
If they were homosexual in nature and maybe the people who worked for him didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's part of what came out after this guy stole his stuff. And that maybe led to some of his anger.
Might have been.
I don't know. I'm throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But this is just, I mean, we're in the middle of a hunt for a serial killer, and we're dealing with this guy.
Yeah.
Who doesn't seem to want to catch the serial killer. He's too busy involved with covering up the fact that he beat the you-know-what out of this guy for stealing his sex toys and pornography.
Yeah.
Burke reportedly blocked the FBI's involvement in the Gilgo Beach investigation for years, leading many to wonder if the case could have been solved sooner.
It's always going to be that question, right? I mean, if you didn't block the FBI from getting involved the way they should have been.
Or they wanted to be.
Or as they wanted to be,
Yeah.
maybe it could have been solved sooner than it was, and maybe somebody's life could have been spared.
Well, we talk about it in a lot of cases, right? Why would someone, let's say one jurisdiction, turn down the help of someone like the FBI, right? Sometimes there is that kind of, we can do it ourselves. We don't need the help of anybody else. I get that. Maybe you don't want them to come in and steal your thunder because you think you're going to solve it. This seems like a much different situation.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of this was he didn't want the FBI involved in Gilgo Beach because he didn't want them involved in his stuff.
I think that's probably what it was, right?
And he thought the two might cross over or something like that.
I mean, I get it. You're always going to have, well, hopefully it starts thinning out over time, but you get these egos, right? My department will handle this. We don't need you, FBI, or we don't need you, state police, to come in here and tell us how to do what we know how to do best. You're going to get that. But in this case, I think you hit it right on the point. It's probably, he was like, if they're not here, they can't find out about this
other thing.
Yeah.
On September 12, 2017, Suffolk County prosecutor Robert Biancavilla said a convicted killer may be responsible for more murders connected to Gilgo Beach, but the investigation was ongoing. I mean, again, I don't think that is he's not going out on a limb there.
No.
The chances of that are probably pretty good.
Yeah.
John Bitrolf was arrested in 2014 after his DNA was found on the bodies of two sex workers, Rita Tangretti and Colleen McNamee, who were beaten to death in 1993 and 1994, respectively. 31-year-old Rita Tangretti was found on November 3rd, 1993, in a wooded area off Esplanade Drive in East Patchogue on Long Island. I'm probably butchering that one as well.
Oh, I think you nailed it.
I doubt it.
You were spot on.
20-year-old Colleen McNamee was killed on January 30th, 1994, and found in a wooded area south of the Long Island Expressway. They both died from strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head. Bitrolf was a married father of two. He was 27 at the time of the murders. The DNA match was made through his brother, who was convicted of violating a protective order in 2013 and had to provide a DNA sample.
I mean, what's the luck of that, right?
Well, if you're a killer, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
For you, you've done a pretty good job staying out of the databases, staying off police radar. All of a sudden, your brother goes and messes it up and you get caught for murder.
Yeah.
Now, for us, that's great. We love that.
Absolutely, we do.
But if you're a killer, you're not happy about that. Bitrolf was convicted in May 2017 and sentenced to 25 years for each murder. Investigators noted a few potential links to the Gilgo Beach murders. Bitrolf lived in Manorville, where the remains of Jessica Taylor were found. He was a hunter who reportedly enjoyed killing animals. He was also a carpenter and had access to various saws, which was relevant because we talked about it, right? Yeah. Several of the bodies on Gilgo Beach were dismembered. The daughter of Rita Tangretti was also close friends with Melissa Bartholomew.
Oh.
One of the Gilgo Beach Four.
Yeah.
Melissa's mother noted that she had a lot of calls to Manorville from her phone before she died. In September 2019, state officials determined that investigators could ask the FBI to use genetic genealogy to find potential relatives of the victims or suspects. And, that 2019, that's, it was starting to ramp up pretty big.
It was.
We had the Golden State Killer, and man, we just have not let off the gas since. Genetic genealogy has been amazing.
Pretty important.
But why would you not want the FBI to help out with something like that? Think of the resources.
Yeah, I never can understand why anybody would say no to the FBI.
Yeah. In January 2020, former Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart, a former FBI agent who joined the force in 2018, tried to revive the investigation by releasing a key piece of evidence. It was a man's belt with 2 initials carved into it. The initials were H and W, or if you looked at it upside down, M and H.
Yeah.
The department also set up the Gilgo News website, hoping someone would leave a tip that would progress the investigation. Commissioner Hart said about the belt per CBS, "We do believe that this item was handled by the suspect and did not belong to any of the victims." So, here you have somebody come in from the FBI. She's now the commissioner. She's not, caught up in some big scandal. Sounds like she's doing a good job, but it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
You have a piece of evidence that you believe was handled by the suspect because it presumably didn't belong to any of the suspects, but it also has what appears to be initials on it. So, okay. We got DNA, we got initials. We might be onto something here.
Do you have your initials on your belt?
No.
How about that belt buckle? How about you got your name on that?
No.
You don't have that gigantic belt buckle?
I still have it, but it doesn't have my initials on it.
Okay.
It's got a cowboy riding a bull.
Is that what it has on yours?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I won that at the rodeo.
Yeah. Yeah, you did not.
Oh,
that's funny, man. Yeah.
So on May 28th, 2020, Jane Doe number 6 was finally identified using genetic genealogy. The woman found on Gilgo Beach on April 4th, 2011 was identified as 24-year-old Valerie Mack. Valerie, who also went by the name Melissa Taylor, went missing in 2000. At the time, she was working as an escort in Philadelphia and was last seen by her family in Port Republic, New Jersey. And this is interesting, right? You and I talk a lot about genetic genealogy in the search for killers, but we've also talked about it as a tool used to help identify suspects.
Sure.
And it's equally valuable there. Obviously, we want to find killers and all of that, but giving unidentified victims their names back, it's unbelievably huge.
Yep.
As well. So
in some sense, even more important.
Yeah, I think you could say that. And we talked about it earlier, but her partial remains were found in 2000 in Manorville, where the remains of Jessica Taylor were also found in 2003. So Valerie had finally been identified, but her killer had not. Meanwhile, Shannon Gilbert's family, they were still seeking answers to explain her suspicious death. The family experienced another tragedy in July 2016 when Shannon's younger sister, Sarah, stabbed their mother, Mary, to death.
Wow.
She was later convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison.
I mean, unbelievable.
It is. I mean, we're talking about a serial killer and the victims, and then wrapped up in all of this, or all these kind of, I guess you'd call them side stories that are just, I mean, they're fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a better word to talk about that. I guess, my question would be, how much of what happened with Sarah was related to Shannon's disappearance, her death, the tumultuous things that the family had to deal with.
But if we think about, the cause of Shannon's death, we don't know at this, as we're talking about it, but if it was because of mental illness, is it possible that her sister suffered from something like that as well. And maybe that had something to do with her killing her mom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tragic for sure, all the way around.
When asked by CBS in 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Hart said that Shannon Gilbert's cause of death was inconclusive. And that's interesting because, accidental drowning, right, was thrown out there. No foul play involved. The family, obviously, they didn't believe that.
Right.
They did their own autopsy. They were doing their own investigative work. Now the new police commissioner comes out and says that the cause of death was inconclusive. In May 2022, the Suffolk County Police released Shannon Gilbert's full 911 call. The Suffolk County Police said Shannon's exact cause and manner of death couldn't be determined, but based on the evidence, the facts, and the totality of the circumstances, the prevailing opinion of Shannon's death, while tragic, was not murder and most likely not criminal. In an interview with CBS, former police commissioner Rodney Harrison said, "It's an unfortunate incident, but right now, we believe that she just ran into the marsh and unfortunately drowned." So, I mean, in the one sense, I do like coming out, the police commissioner coming out and saying it's inconclusive. Now they're saying most likely we think this happened. I don't like it when people are so adamant that something happened a certain way when they really don't have the facts, let's say, to back it up. It's kind of like when we talk about manner of death or cause of death, when you could leave it as undetermined, but they don't, and they say natural causes, or, they say something so definitive when you look at the evidence and it seems so up in the air.
Yeah. Why box it in when you don't have to?
Right. Because it sets a lot of things in motion or prevents things from being put into motion. The problem is Shannon's family, they still suspected foul play, right?
Yeah.
Them coming out and saying this stuff isn't going to change their mind. And we said it in part one. I just said it a minute ago. They ordered a private autopsy, and it was conducted by Michael Baden.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually, maybe about a month ago, watched some of the old autopsy shows on HBO.
Yeah.
Man, when I was younger, those were shows that fascinated me.
Same here.
And they were all, cases that he had done, or at least cases that he talked about. And I always thought he was a kind of a fascinating guy. He was the former New York chief medical examiner. There was not enough evidence to determine a cause of death. But according to him, the findings were consistent with homicidal strangulation. Part of Shannon's neck bone was missing from her remains. So again, I think that right there tells you all you need to know about determining a cause of death. If it could go either way, right? If he could see it that way, and another medical examiner could see it as accidental drowning, yeah, you got to say it's undetermined.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have multiple experts saying different things. Former Chief of Detectives Dominic Verone said about the accident theory and the way Shannon's belongings were found in the marsh near her body, she's disoriented. She's in a frenzy. You have to understand the manner in which these items were found, very consistent with someone losing these items as they're running. Okay. Why are you running? Why is she running?
I mean, maybe still panicky like she was when she was in that neighborhood, going from house to house saying, I need help, 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 help. I need help, help, help. that we talked about in episode 1. You know, maybe she's still in that mode. And
or is it because she's being chased?
Or is she being chased by whatever she thinks is chasing her?
Or actually is chasing
her, which could be the truth.
Because we're at a different point, right? She's in a different place.
Maybe she came across something she shouldn't have came across.
Or maybe she caught the eye of somebody who just happened to be out there. Suffolk Homicide Section Commanding Officer Kevin Breyer explained that Shannon wandered into marshland where reeds can grow up to 12 feet high. One cannot tell where the highway is or where the bay is. Some of the brush is impenetrable. He noted that Shannon's body was found north of a trench, about 3/4 of a mile from where she was last seen. Former Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Dormer said at the time that investigators believe Shannon drowned or succumbed to the elements. He said she traveled at least half a mile, 3/4 of a mile on foot through that muck. It would be very easy to get exhausted and fall down and not be able to move any further. And I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at different scenarios, different possibilities, I think you have to look at that one. You also have to look at maybe homicidal strangulation. I don't know. Look at them both.
You have to leave them both open.
Family attorney John Ray and his colleagues went to the marsh to see if Shannon could have traveled through the area. Ray noted that it would have been almost impossible for Shannon to walk through the area without cutting her feet badly. That's interesting. Assuming she was barefoot. So they do a test and they're like, oh, no way you could walk through all this stuff without cutting your feet. Now, you can debate the accuracy of all these different things. The family also believes the police should have done more to investigate Dr. Peter Hackett. And we mentioned it right in part 1, how this guy kept inserting himself into the case by contacting Shannon Gilbert's mother and claiming that Shannon stayed at this halfway house that he ran. Now, he later denied calling her, said that he'd never seen her, but phone records proved otherwise. The family filed a wrongful death suit against Dr. Hackett, claiming he improperly treated Shannon. According to 48 Hours, Dr. Hackett was known to provide medical treatment out of his home. 2 neighbors signed affidavits, one claiming Dr. Hackett gave him a prescription injectable steroid, another claiming Hackett provided prescriptions for residents of Oak Beach. Now, he admitted to treating friends and neighbors, but he denied treating or seeing Shannon Gilbert.
So he's just going to claim that never happened.
Which, yeah, I think he keeps saying. Didn't do it, didn't see her, didn't.
Yeah.
Even though, he has said some things to the contrary, and I think some phone records didn't support some of the things that he said. Attorney John Ray said at a press conference, there's no evidence whatsoever that Shannon Gilbert died a natural death. Those 3 theories have been put forward repeatedly by Suffolk County Police. And I get it. This happens all the time, right? The police come up with their theory. The family's not happy. They're not buying it.
Right.
And they want their own or independent people to take a look at it. And it's not unusual for experts to disagree. The only part I ever have a problem with is, like I said, a determination made as to the manner or cause of death without really concrete evidence to that fact. I get it. We all have theories and there's speculation, and you can make educated guesses, and people do. But if you can't be 100% sure with provable, facts, evidence, just leave it as undetermined.
Right.
And until something comes along that does back one version up.
I mean, at least the family's pushing on it. Well, I don't know how much pushing's going now with,
with the death of her mom.
Well, her mom and her sister's in prison. But
who's left to push?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, we don't know. But in part 3 of the Long Island serial killer episodes, we'll cover how a Suffolk County task force identified the suspect, and we'll get into, his arrest, but also get into his background.
Yeah, which is critical.
Yeah, because I think people really fascinated by this guy, not for what he did, obviously, but who he was.
Right.
And that's true, I think, for a lot of serial killers. You think of a guy like John Wayne Gacy. People are horrified by what he did. But look at the man's life.
Yeah.
And what he portrayed to those around him. And then, find out what he actually did. How could somebody play both of those roles?
Yeah.
I mean, some of that stuff is really fascinating. I mean, it just is. So that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.